All right. Welcome to your personalized deep dive.
Mm.
This one is going to be all about like practical ways to live longer, healthier lives,
Okay.
especially when it comes to keeping our brains sharp.
Right.
And we are going deep into this awesome conversation
Yeah.
between Dr. Andrew Weil, he's a total legend in integrative medicine,
Yeah.
and Jay Shetty from his On Purpose podcast.
Dr. Weil is such a good choice for this topic.
Yeah.
He's known for kind of like blending ancient wisdom with modern science,
Yeah,
making healthy living feel actually doable.
exactly. And he starts off strong right away.
Mm-hmm.
He lays down his first rule of healthy eating.
Okay.
Ditch those processed foods.
Interesting.
We're talking refined,
Mm.
manufactured anything that comes in a suspiciously bright package.
So like anything that looks too perfect to be real?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
He links these foods directly to chronic inflammation,
Makes sense.
which he believes is a major driver of serious diseases.
So it's not just about like weight loss or feeling good. It's about preventing those big, scary health problems.
Exactly. And it's all about understanding, like, the why behind the advice, right?
Totally. I think that's key.
Like, when you understand why, you're more likely to actually stick with it.
Yeah, for sure.
And Jay Shetty even jumped in here, sharing his own struggles
Oh, really?
with making that change.
Yeah.
It's not easy to break free from, those convenient but not so healthy choices.
Oh, I know.
But hearing their conversation, it just highlights how important it is.
So what kind of things does Dr. Weil recommend instead of those processed foods?
Well, first of all, he encourages everyone to befriend broccoli.
Befriend broccoli.
Yeah, like become besties with broccoli.
Okay.
His tip is to keep it simple.
Okay.
Like a quick steam or saute with a little olive oil and garlic.
I can do that.
Yeah. Simple. 2 minutes is all it takes, and you're like packing in those cancer-fighting compounds.
And garlic just makes everything taste better.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
So that's great.
And I love that he's also about adding berries to the mix.
Yeah. We always hear about antioxidants.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have a specific tasty example.
Totally. I mean, I love berries.
Me too.
So that's easy.
Okay, and then there's tea.
Ooh.
Dr. Weil's a big advocate for tea.
I am too.
And he loves how many flavors and potent antioxidants you can find in different varieties.
Oh, true.
He even observed firsthand the power of tea
Oh, where was this?
in Okinawa,
Okinawa.
a region famous for its long-lived residents.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
He noticed that even on sweltering hot days,
Yeah.
people there were sipping unsweetened turmeric tea,
Turmeric taste.
specifically a fermented kind that dissolves easily in cold water.
That sounds refreshing.
And according to Dr. Weil, it tastes amazing.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Now think about it.
Yeah.
Turmeric's a powerful anti-inflammatory,
Right.
and Okinawa boasts these incredibly low rates of Alzheimer's disease,
Wow.
which Dr. Weil links to brain inflammation.
So their tea habit could actually be contributing to their longevity.
It really makes you wonder, right?
That's fascinating.
Now, we can't talk about Dr. Weil without mentioning his passion for matcha.
Matcha. Oh, yeah, he's obsessed. He even started a company to bring high-quality matcha to the West.
His enthusiasm is definitely contagious.
I know, and it's more than just hype.
So what sets matcha apart from regular green tea?
Well, what sets it apart is how it's grown.
Okay,
The tea plants are shaded for weeks before harvest,
interesting.
which increases their chlorophyll and antioxidant content.
So it's like supercharged green tea.
Basically.
Yeah.
I like it. Plus, it has L-theanine.
L-theanine.
It's an amino acid that helps you focus calmly,
Okay.
and it balances out that caffeine buzz.
So you get the energy without the jitters?
Exactly. I'm sold. I'm already a tea drinker.
Yeah.
But this makes me want to swap my usual cup for some matcha.
It might be worth a try, especially if you're looking for natural ways to enhance your focus and energy levels.
Totally. And Dr. Weil and Jay Shetty also talked about the green Mediterranean diet,
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
which seems right up your alley. Yeah, for sure.
The Mediterranean diet's already pretty healthy, right?
Lots of fruits, veggies, olive oil.
What makes the green version different?
Well, it takes that plant-based emphasis even further.
Okay.
So more fruits and vegetables, even fewer animal products, and a particular focus on polyphenols.
Polyphenols.
Yeah.
Remind me what those are again.
Think of them as like powerful antioxidants found in plants.
Okay.
You'll find them in berries tea and get this
What?
dark chocolate.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
Right.
See, this deep dive is already proving useful.
Exactly.
Little indulgences with big health benefits. I like it.
Speaking of practical matters, we have to touch on cooking oils.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Weil shared his current recommendations,
Yep.
and there's a bit of a surprise in the mix.
Ooh, I'm all ears.
What did he say?
Well, olive oil and avocado oil are no-brainers,
Yeah,
given their healthy
of
fats.
course.
But he also mentioned algae oil,
Algae oil.
which I have to admit I'm not that familiar with.
I've never even heard of that. Apparently, it's produced sustainably.
Okay.
It has a high smoke point
Yeah.
and a neutral taste.
Interesting. Algae oil.
Huh?
Definitely adding that to my list to research.
Yeah, it's worth checking out.
But what about the oils we should avoid?
Well, Dr. Weil brought up environmental concerns
Yeah.
and potential health risks associated with canola oil,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
particularly how it's processed,
Right.
and the heavy use of agrochemicals in its production.
Good to know. I've been trying to pay more attention to the sourcing and production of my food.
Me too. It's important.
So that's helpful information.
Yeah, it's all about those small changes that can have a big impact
I agree.
on your health and the environment.
Definitely. And on that note, Dr. Wheel had a great tip for those of us who love the taste of ghee,
Yee.
clarified butter.
Okay.
He suggests using it sparingly as a flavoring rather than the primary cooking fat.
That makes sense.
You get the taste without going overboard on saturated fat.
Right, moderation is key.
Smart move. Did he have any other practical swaps?
He did. He suggested trying cashew milk as an alternative to coconut milk.
Ooh, interesting.
It's got a creamy texture,
Okay.
but a healthier fat profile.
All right. I have to try that.
Yeah, I'm curious about it too.
Now we're getting into a potentially controversial area,
Okay.
but it's one you specifically wanted to learn more about.
Yes.
Cannabis and psychedelics.
All right, let's dive in.
Remember, we're here to present information and encourage critical thinking,
Of course.
not to advocate for any particular stance.
Right, we're just exploring the information.
And Dr. Weil is a great resource for this topic.
Absolutely.
His experience with it goes way back.
Oh yeah, how far back are we talking?
All the way to his research in the 1960s.
Wow, that's a long time.
1964 to be exact.
Wow, he's definitely seen the evolution of this topic.
He has.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first things he does is make a conscious language shift,
What do you mean?
opting for the term cannabis instead of marijuana.
Interesting. Why is that?
He feels that the term marijuana carries unnecessary negative baggage.
It's about framing the conversation in a more neutral and less judgmental way.
Exactly.
Huh.
And he stresses that cannabis has this incredible versatility.
Okay.
You can use it for food fiber medicine and, of course, for its intoxicating effects.
So it's not just about getting high.
No, not at all.
It has so many different uses.
It's remarkable how one plant can have such a diverse range of applications.
That's pretty amazing.
He's not shying away from the complexities, though.
What does he say about that?
He acknowledges that people react to cannabis differently,
Of course, everyone's different.
particularly when it comes to sleep.
So what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important to experiment carefully.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your own body's signals
Right.
rather than relying on blanket recommendations.
Listen to your body.
And despite its intoxicating effects,
Yeah.
he points out that cannabis is remarkably non-toxic,
Compared to...
especially compared to many pharmaceutical drugs.
Wow.
He even states that you can't calculate a lethal dose for cannabis.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is. It definitely challenges some of those fear-based narratives surrounding cannabis.
Yeah, it makes you think.
And Dr. Weil also weighed in on the debate about smoking
Okay.
versus other consumption methods.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that inhaling smoke of any kind
Right.
isn't ideal for your lungs.
Of course.
But he suggests that cannabis smoke is likely less harmful than tobacco smoke.
Interesting. So there's nuance there.
That's a nuanced perspective.
Yeah.
It takes into account both the potential risks
Right.
and the reality that many people do choose to smoke cannabis.
That's a fair point.
And while Dr. Weil believes cannabis has promising medical potential,
Mm-hmm.
he stresses the need for more research,
Yeah, we definitely need more data.
particularly regarding specific conditions and dosages.
Makes sense.
And then there's this fascinating detail
Oh, what's that?
about the American Cannabis Nurses Association.
Cannabis nurses.
Did you know there are nurses specifically trained
No way.
in using cannabis therapeutically?
Wow, that's incredible.
It's a testament to how the landscape of healthcare is changing.
Absolutely.
Nurses are often on the front lines,
Yeah, they see it all.
witnessing suffering
Yeah,
and seeking compassionate solutions.
that makes sense.
It's encouraging to see them embracing the potential of cannabis,
Yeah,
especially in areas like pain management and hospice care.
that's really powerful.
And it raises an interesting question.
Okay.
If nurses are becoming more comfortable with cannabis,
Yeah,
why is there still hesitancy among many physicians?
that is a good question.
Dr. Whale suggests It comes down to a lack of standardized cannabis preparations
I see.
that doctors feel confident prescribing.
So they need more clear guidelines and reliable products.
Exactly. The world of cannabis can be overwhelming,
Yeah.
even for those with medical training.
Right. It's not always straightforward.
It makes it tough for some doctors to embrace its therapeutic potential.
I can understand that.
I'm also curious about Dr. Wheel's personal experience with cannabis.
Me too.
He hinted at a shift in his relationship with the plant over time.
Oh, really?
It seems like it went from positive experiences to something less beneficial.
What happened?
He describes how in his younger years,
Yeah.
cannabis helped stimulate his creativity and imagination.
Okay.
It even helped his writing process.
Interesting.
But then something changed.
What was that?
The effects shifted,
Okay.
becoming more introspective,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually leading to what he describes as an unproductive habit
I see.
that left him feeling groggy and disconnected.
So it wasn't working for him anymore.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
And to emphasize the importance of careful dosing,
Yeah. Dosage is so important.
he shared an anecdote about a very potent cannabis oil he received
Oh, wow.
from a colleague.
Okay.
He was advised to start with a tiny dose,
Hmm.
like the size of a grain of rice.
That's tiny.
And being cautious, he took even less.
Wow.
And yet within an hour,
Yeah.
he was in a state of full-blown delirium,
Oh, no.
complete with vivid hallucinations,
That's
and a loss of physical coordination.
That sounds scary.
It's a powerful reminder that even with natural substances,
Yeah.
dosage matters.
Absolutely. Start low and go slow.
What's a gentle experience for one person
Yeah.
could be overwhelming for another.
For sure.
This deep dive is really showing the complexity of cannabis, isn't it?
It really is.
It's not a simple black and white issue.
No, definitely not.
There are so many nuances to consider,
So many factors at play.
both in terms of individual experiences
Right.
and the evolving scientific understanding.
It's a constantly evolving field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now we're moving into another fascinating area of exploration,
Okay. I'm ready.
the psychedelic renaissance.
Ooh, this is exciting.
Dr. Weil has noticed this surge of mainstream interest in psychedelics,
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
even getting questions about them during talks on completely different topics.
Really?
Like, it's as if psychedelics are bubbling up into popular consciousness,
Makes sense.
breaking free from their long-held taboo status.
Yeah. It's becoming more mainstream.
He even mentioned a Vogue magazine cover story on psilocybin
Wow. Ooh.
and a Town and Country article titled, "Why is Everybody Smoking Toad Venom?"
Toad venom. That's wild.
Who would have thought, right?
It's definitely a cultural shift.
It is. Psychedelics are finding their way into these unexpected corners of society,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
sparking curiosity and challenging long-held assumptions.
I love that.
But before we dive into specifics,
Okay.
let's define our terms.
Good idea.
What exactly are psychedelics?
Yeah, I think a refresher is good.
Dr. Weil explains that the word psychedelic itself
Yeah.
means mind manifesting.
Mind manifesting.
It's a far cry from the term psychotomimetics
Psychotomimetic.
that was used before,
Okay.
which implied they mimicked psychosis.
So the language has definitely changed.
That's a crucial distinction. The language we use shapes our perceptions
Absolutely.
by reframing psychedelics as mind manifesting
Ugh.
rather than psychosis inducing.
It changes the whole narrative.
It opens up a whole new way of understanding their potential.
I like that.
And it's important to remember that not every mind-altering substance
Right.
is a psychedelic.
Okay.
Dr. Weil points out that ketamine and cannabis,
Yeah.
while often grouped together,
Mm-hmm.
aren't true psychedelics.
Okay.
What makes them different?
Yeah, what sets them apart?
Their chemical structures and effects
Okay.
are quite different from classic psychedelics.
Got it.
Psychedelics often produce significant changes in perception, thought, and emotion.
Interesting. So what does Dr. Weil say about those effects?
He emphasizes the critical role of set and setting.
Set and setting.
That means your mindset going into the experience
Okay.
and the environment in which you're taking it
Yeah, that makes sense.
can massively influence the effects.
But it's not just about the drug itself.
Yeah.
It's about the context surrounding its use.
Exactly. He gave a pretty stark example.
What was that?
Taking a high dose of LSD
Okay.
on a crowded New York subway
Oh, no.
while feeling anxious.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It's practically guaranteed to be a challenging,
Yeah,
potentially frightening experience.
I can imagine.
But taking a moderate dose
Okay.
in a peaceful, natural setting with
Okay.
supportive companions
That sounds much better.
can lead to a profound even transformative journey.
So the environment really makes a difference.
It really does. It highlights how powerful context can be
Oh,
in shaping our internal reality.
that's fascinating.
It reminds me of the importance of creating a safe and supportive space
Yeah,
for any kind of inner exploration.
totally. Whether it involves psychedelics or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now let's dive into the specific chemical families
Okay.
that encompass the classic psychedelics.
I'm ready.
There are two main groups,
Okay.
each with distinct molecular structures and effects.
Let's hear about them.
But we'll save that exploration for part 2 of our deep dive.
Oh, man, a cliffhanger.
Stay tuned.
I can't wait. Okay, so last time we left off talking about those two main chemical families of classic psychedelics.
Right, those two main groups.
Are you ready to, dive in?
Absolutely. I feel like we're about to, uncover this whole new world of knowledge.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
Yeah.
So one family includes compounds like LSD and psilocybin.
Oh.
They tend to create more visual effects
Okay.
and often lead to feeling a sense of interconnectedness with
Yeah.
everything around you.
But we're talking about those, galaxies of exploding colors type of experiences people describe.
Exactly. And then there's the other family, which includes mescaline and DMT.
Okay.
These are known for their extremely intense effects.
Okay.
Sometimes even overwhelming.
Yeah.
And they can create a sense of ego dissolution.
Ego dissolution, that sounds intriguing. And a little intimidating, to be honest. What does that even, feel like?
Imagine the feeling of your sense of self dissolving,
Okay.
your boundaries blurring.
Wow.
It can be intense. But for many people, it leads to profound insights and a feeling of spiritual breakthrough.
Okay, I'm starting to understand.
Yeah.
But Dr. Weil isn't just looking at psychedelics for mental health conditions, is he?
No, he's not.
He seems to see them as tools for something bigger. Something he calls spiritual awakening, right?
You're picking up on a key point here. Dr. Weil believes psychedelics can be catalysts
Oh,
for spiritual awakening.
interesting.
He even cites research from Johns Hopkins and his own personal experiences
Wow.
to back this up.
Now, this is where I get a little hesitant. I'm all for exploring new perspectives.
Yeah,
But I also want to make sure we're not just getting caught up in hype.
sure.
How does Dr. Weil define spiritual awakening?
That's a great question. He defines it as being aware of
Okay.
and acknowledging the non-material aspects of existence,
Okay.
which he contrasts with organized religion.
So it's less about dogma and more about a direct personal experience of connection and meaning. A sense that there's more to reality than what we can see and touch.
Yeah. Exactly. And Dr. Weil expresses frustration with how much the medical field
Yeah.
prioritizes a purely materialistic paradigm,
Okay.
where anything that can't be measured or quantified is often dismissed.
It sounds like he's calling for a major shift in perspective.
He is.
A recognition that consciousness itself plays a crucial role in health and healing.
Absolutely. And he sees psychedelics as potential tools to accelerate this shift,
Okay.
both for individuals and on a larger scale.
I could see how that might be appealing to people. I've had moments in meditation and nature
Yeah.
where I felt a sense of interconnectedness, this feeling that there's so much more to reality than what we normally perceive.
Those are powerful experiences. And Dr. Weil suggests that for some people,
Okay.
psychedelics used responsibly
Yeah.
can offer a more direct path to these insights
Okay.
than traditional spiritual practices might.
It's like opening a door to a realm that's always been there but hidden beneath our everyday perceptions.
Exactly.
So let's talk about specific psychedelics. You mentioned MDMA, also known as ecstasy. I've mostly heard about it in a recreational context, but what about its therapeutic potential?
Dr. Weil describes MDMA as a synthetic psychedelic that creates a unique state of emotional openness and empathy.
Okay.
It's even been called an empathogen.
So it's less about the visuals or ego dissolution we talked about,
Right.
and more about cultivating deep connection and vulnerability.
Exactly. It helps people connect with themselves and others in a very profound way.
Wow.
And Dr. Weil believes this makes MDMA especially well suited for treating PTSD.
Okay.
He's even seen remarkable results in single structured sessions
Interesting.
with people who haven't responded to traditional talk therapy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But what happens after the MDMA session?
Right.
Do those feelings of empathy and connection stick around?
Well, Dr. Weil acknowledges that the immediate effects do fade,
Yep.
and there's often a period of tiredness afterwards.
Okay.
However, he believes that the insights gained
Mm-hmm.
and the emotional shifts experienced during the session
Yeah.
can have a lasting impact, leading to permanent changes in relationships and behaviors.
So it's not about chasing a temporary high. It's about using the MDMA experience as a springboard for deeper healing and personal growth.
That's a great way to put it.
It sounds a bit like what Dr. Weil experienced during his 3 years living as a monk in India.
You're making a great connection. He described reaching a state of profound interconnectedness with all beings.
Wow.
Through hours of daily meditation, reflection, and specific practices designed to cultivate compassion and empathy.
It really highlights how different paths can lead to similar states of awareness and connection.
That's beautiful.
But let's move on to another well-known psychedelic, psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms.
Okay, psilocybin is gaining a lot of attention lately,
I've definitely been hearing more about it,
particularly for its potential in mental health treatment.
especially in the context of research on conditions like depression and anxiety.
Exactly.
What are Dr. Weil's main points on psilocybin?
He highlights its effectiveness in treating conditions like depression, OCD, and addiction, particularly when traditional treatments have failed.
So it could be a last resort for some people.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And he emphasizes the safety of psilocybin,
Okay.
both physically and cognitively.
That's reassuring, especially given all the negative stigma that's been attached to psychedelics for so long. Does he address those concerns directly?
He does. He even mentions studies
Oh, what?
that show people who've used psilocybin regularly over their lifetimes
Okay.
actually have healthy brains.
Interesting. So it actually could be beneficial in some ways.
It really challenges the fear-mongering that's so often associated with these substances.
That's good to hear. Now, how does psilocybin compare to LSD in terms of its effects?
The main difference is how long the experience lasts.
Oh,
LSD can last for 10 to 12 hours,
wow, that's a long time.
while psilocybin typically lasts for 4 to 6 hours,
Okay, that's a big difference.
making it more manageable for therapeutic settings.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Dr. Weil doesn't criticize people who choose to use psilocybin recreationally.
He even suggests it might be a safer alternative to alcohol.
He acknowledges the potential risks of any substance use,
Of course.
but he also points out that alcohol is far more toxic to
Wow.
the brain and liver
Yeah.
and is responsible for countless deaths and accidents every year.
It's a thought-provoking perspective. We tend to demonize certain substances
Yeah.
while readily accepting others, even those with proven harms.
About perspective.
Speaking of powerful substances, Dr. Weil also touches on DMT, or dimethyltryptamine,
EMT.
a psychedelic known for its incredibly intense,
Intense is an understatement.
but short-lived effects.
Yes, DMT is the one people often describe as feeling like a rocket ship to another dimension.
Really?
It's usually inhaled or smoked,
Okay.
and the effects come on very quickly,
Okay.
inducing vivid visuals and a sense of ego dissolution.
This is a very rapid and powerful experience.
Yeah.
Is there anything else interesting he shared about DMT?
He suggests that DMT might be naturally produced
What?
in the pineal gland, a tiny gland in the brain. It might even be responsible for those psychedelic-like experiences that some people report having during meditation, fasting, or near-death experiences.
Wow, that's a fascinating idea. Our brains might actually be capable of producing a psychedelic compound. That really blurs the lines between what we consider internal and external reality.
Yeah.
Now, I know Dr. Weil has traveled extensively,
Yeah, he's been all over the world.
including trips to the Amazon to study medicinal plants and work with shamans.
That's so cool.
I'm curious about his perspective on how indigenous cultures use psychedelics
Okay.
compared to how they're often viewed in Western societies.
That's a great question, and it highlights a crucial point. Dr. Weil observed that in indigenous cultures,
Yeah.
psychedelics are almost always used in a ritualistic context,
Talk.
under the guidance of experienced shamans
Okay.
who understand their power and potential risks.
So there's a deep respect for these substances and a recognition that they're not to be taken lightly.
Exactly. The rituals and ceremonies surrounding their use create a safe container for the experience and help maximize the potential for healing and spiritual growth.
That seems like a stark contrast to the casual, sometimes even reckless way psychedelics are often used in Western cultures.
Right.
Do you think Dr. Weil sees that as a problem?
He does seem to emphasize the importance of intention and respect
Okay.
when working with these powerful substances.
Yeah.
And he draws a parallel between the importance of ritual
Okay.
and the way societies have developed customs and norms around alcohol use.
Interesting. Like what?
For example, he points to the cocktail party,
Okay.
a structured social gathering with food and company,
Right.
as a way of containing the potentially harmful effects of distilled alcohol.
It's a reminder that even with substances that are widely accepted, rituals and social contexts can play a role in mitigating risks and promoting responsible use. Does Dr. Weil explore this idea in any of his books?
He does. He wrote a book called Chocolate to Morphine, Understanding Mind-Active Drugs.
I've heard of that book. What's the main idea behind it?
Dr. Whale argues that there are no inherently good or bad drugs. Only good or bad relationships with drugs.
So it's not about the substance itself.
No.
It's about our relationship.
Exactly. He believes it's how we use them, how we think about them,
Okay.
and the context in which we take them.
Okay.
That determines their effects.
So the focus shifts from demonizing substances
Right.
to understanding our own patterns and motivations around them.
Exactly.
That's a really powerful perspective.
He even uses chocolate as an example. He admits to having been genuinely addicted to chocolate at one point,
Oh, I can relate to that.
easily consuming a whole bar in one sitting.
Wow. But he doesn't advocate for complete abstinence from chocolate, does he?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
He simply suggests moderation and mindful consumption.
Okay.
He even puts chocolate at the very top of his anti-inflammatory diet pyramid, highlighting its antioxidant benefits.
It's all about finding a balance. We can enjoy the pleasure and benefits of certain substances without letting them control us.
Exactly. And that ties back to the broader themes of mindfulness and intentionality,
Right.
not just with substances,
Yeah.
but with all aspects of our lives.
It's about cultivating a healthy relationship with ourselves, our bodies, and the world around us.
Beautifully said.
We've talked a lot about Dr. Whale's perspective on spiritual awakening.
Yeah,
Earlier you mentioned he distinguishes between spirituality and religion.
right.
Could you elaborate on that?
He sees religion as primarily focused on institutions and dogma,
Okay.
often concerned with perpetuating themselves.
Well, spirituality is about a more direct experience of connection and meaning, something that goes beyond any particular belief system.
Exactly. And Dr. Weil describes feeling frustrated by the resistance he's encountered
Really?
within the medical field when trying to discuss the mind-body connection
Okay.
and the non-material aspects of healing.
It sounds like he's been a pioneer in trying to bridge the gap between these two worlds.
He has. He even shared a story about his time at Harvard.
Oh, what happened at Harvard?
He wanted to delve into the mysteries of the mind, but he was met with skepticism and a focus on reducing human behavior to simple stimulus response patterns.
It just shows that even in prestigious institutions, there can be resistance to new ideas
Right.
and a reluctance to let go of outdated paradigms.
Absolutely. So where does this all lead?
That's a good question.
Dr. Weil believes we need a radical shift in our understanding of consciousness.
Okay.
He's even pointed to a concept called panpsychism,
Panpsychism.
which he thinks is gaining traction in philosophical circles.
Panpsychism. That's a new one for me. What does it mean?
It's the idea that consciousness is fundamental to all of reality,
Okay.
present even in what we consider inanimate objects like rocks or atoms.
So it's not just humans and animals who possess consciousness,
Yeah,
but everything in the universe.
that's the essence of panpsychism.
Wow.
And Dr. Weil believes this perspective has the potential to completely revolutionize our understanding
Okay.
of ourselves, our relationship with nature, and the very nature of reality itself.
That's a huge shift in perspective. And I can see how psychedelic experiences with their ability to dissolve boundaries and reveal interconnectedness might lead some people to embrace this view.
It's as if psychedelics offer a glimpse into the underlying nature of reality,
Wow.
a reality that has always been there, but hidden by our limited perceptions.
This deep dive is really challenging me to think bigger and consider new possibilities. It's clear that Dr. Weil's work isn't just about promoting specific substances or practices.
Right.
It's about fostering a deeper understanding of consciousness and its role in healing and transformation, both for ourselves and the world.
You've really captured the essence of his work.
And that brings us to the end of part 2 of our deep dive. Don't worry, there's still more to explore in part 3. We'll delve further into Dr. Weil's insights on spirituality, the challenges of integrating psychedelic experiences into everyday life, and the potential for these powerful tools to catalyze positive change in the world. Welcome back. It's amazing to think we've gone from practical tips on befriending broccoli to exploring the potential of psychedelics to change the world.
It's been quite a journey through Dr. Weil's world, hasn't it?
It really has.
He really paints this compelling picture of how these experiences could lead to a more conscious and interconnected way of living.
It's a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
But I also keep coming back to this question of like practicality.
Okay.
How do we integrate these profound, often mind-blowing psychedelic experiences into our everyday lives?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
It is. It's one thing to feel deeply connected to nature during a psilocybin journey.
Yeah,
But how do you hold on to that feeling
exactly.
when you're back to dealing with emails and traffic jams?
And that's the key question, isn't it? Dr. Wall stresses that integration is essential.
Okay.
It's not enough to just have the experience.
Right.
You have to find ways to weave those insights and shifts in perspective into your daily life.
So it's about more than just the trip itself.
Exactly.
It's about the ongoing work of reflection, making conscious choices,
Yeah,
and embodying those new understandings in a practical way.
absolutely. Dr. Wiles suggests that practices like meditation breathwork
Okay.
and spending time in nature
Yeah.
can help us stay connected to those deeper states of awareness we glimpse during these experiences.
It's like building bridges between those extraordinary moments of insight
Right.
and the ordinary flow of daily life.
What a great way to put it. It reminds me of something Dr. Weil said earlier
Yeah.
about the connection between breath and spirit.
Okay.
He pointed out that in many languages,
Yeah.
the words for breath and spirit are the same,
Interesting.
suggesting this deep link
Okay.
between our physical and spiritual selves.
So even something as simple as paying attention to our breath
Right.
can help us tap into that deeper dimension, that sense of aliveness and connection
Absolutely.
that goes beyond our everyday thinking mind.
It's a simple but powerful practice that's available to everyone.
I love that.
It reminds us that we don't need extraordinary experiences to connect with our spiritual essence.
Right.
It's always there waiting to be discovered in the stillness of the present moment.
This deep dive has really expanded my understanding of psychedelics,
Yeah.
not just as tools for treating specific conditions,
Right.
but as catalysts for personal and collective transformation.
Absolutely.
Dr. Weil's vision is both inspiring and challenging,
It is.
and it's definitely left me thinking about some big questions.
And that's what the deep dive is all about.
Exactly.
It's not about handing you a set of answers,
Right.
but about sparking your curiosity, expanding your perspective, and giving you the tools to keep exploring.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, I'm left with a sense of wonder and possibility.
That's great.
Dr. Weil's words have definitely planted some seeds,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to see what grows from them.
That's a wonderful way to approach it. Perhaps the biggest takeaway from this exploration is a renewed sense of curiosity, a willingness to challenge old assumptions, and a commitment to cultivate a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
I couldn't agree more. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought-provoking question,
Okay.
inspired by Dr. Weil. If psychedelics have the potential to change our relationship with nature and ourselves,
Yeah.
what small step can you take today to nurture that connection in your own life?
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep